Hi, it's Melissa. I appreciate you joining me today. Really the topic I want to speak about today is about my path to channeling. And some may label that as on steroids. And yes, it has came quite quickly, quite exciting, at sometimes challenging. But as I go through some of the timeline of things in my life and the events, remember that this is our current state. We see miracles happen instantaneously. It is the same type of concept. We put labels of this should take this long, this is the length of time this process should occur. That is a human thing. What I've learned with working with Maitreya, one, there is no time. But two, when you, let's say, get out of your own way and start receiving and allowing, things do happen instantaneous. And who knows what that looks like. This is where we're at in this time, in this state. This is why I'm sharing my path so candidly, because there is no structure to this. I'm going to do videos with makeup, no makeup, any time of the day, depending on what's going on. Because it's important to share in the rawness, the candid events of our life, because that's when the greatness is happening, not because I took a particular course or I said a particular prayer or that I followed a particular script of meditation. Not that those things are grand in its own right, but those are enhancements to what you already are. This is your current state and the state of being that we all have. So depending on your desire, this is available to you, and I just want to demonstrate that. So let me go back a little bit on my timelines and talk and just share a little bit about my path. And maybe you'll relate, and maybe you still think, that seems to be much on steroids, whatever that is. But, the goal of this is I'm just demonstrating it can come with challenges, but lately it has come with such great ease. And it's because I have got on my own way. I stopped analyzing, stopped trying to understand. If I've learned nothing else, is this does not make sense to the human mind. And if that's what you're desiring and you need, you may stay in a certain spot because of that is your desire. When you begin to release and know that this is not going to make sense, but it is for your higher alignment, it is meant for you to understand and move through this. There is no harm that is to come to you by doing this. This is a true alignment. And each of you, as you embrace your true alignment, and as Maitreya calls it, your divineness, things start to just explode in grandness. And so that is what I'm living. Yes, do I still have everyday challenges? Absolutely. I'm still asking for the same things you are, the abundance, the relationships. I still have my own challenges. It did not, release all of that. I still have anxiety, still trying to understand, dealing with ego just like you. But in those pristine times when I do honor the true alignment, grand things happen. One, I use this word grandness all the time, which that is such a Maitreya word. But we have now, him and I are one of the same. And having that, connection, I can't even explain how beautiful that is. But like I said, I still experience the day-to-day life and challenges as you do. And know that that's okay. And that's exactly the human experience. But we also are meant to come into terms in true alignment with our higher self. So just to backtrack a little bit, a year ago in October, I went to Sedona, Arizona to celebrate my 50th birthday. And I knew just from my intuition that I was expecting great things. I knew that coming into it. I just didn't have any idea just what a milestone that would be in my life and a change. October seems to be very much a milestone in everything I do. When I look back and refer or, kind of take a look at October just in itself, there's things that are very much, let's say grand times or monumental moments in my life. So in October of last year, 2018, Obviously, Sedona has great energies, and I just went to experience those energies. And I went also to attend a Crayon conference with Adironda, Marilyn Harper, and Pragi, the Stargate experience, and really enjoyed being in the presence. I really, not necessarily was I after the actual topics, I was more drawn to being in that energy. I knew from working with the energy that I've been exposed to that just having that essence around me would be an incredible experience. And so just being in that energy with those three channelings going on, that's what I was after. And oh boy, I had no idea what an experience that was going to be. You know, I sat there in the audience when all three came and was channeling together, and I thought my heart center was going to explode. I was sitting there, I knew it was expanding, I knew I was safe, I knew I was not going to be harmed, but feeling the pain of that expanding within my body and going, oh my gosh, is my body going to literally explode? I mean, it just felt like it was expanding at such a rapid state. Didn't even really comprehend what that was. But at that time, also Adironda was looking toward me and said, you know, those, I see a violet light. Somebody is, you know, demonstrating, or let's say, it was full of violet flame light when she was looking my direction. I had no idea if she's speaking to me or not, but I felt like I was radiating something. And then later that weekend, received early in the one morning some intense activations. Really didn't understand what they were till later. They were DNA activations, and later was explained to me why that was taking place, about my relationship to DNA in this human collective and my part in that. So received, you know, those intense activations, the geometric codes, very lot of symbols at that point, and actually put me down for at least 24 hours where I was bedridden, trying to allow that to synchronize with my human body. And then later went to Pragi's workshop and was just so enlightened by his energy. Still very drawn to Pragi and the energy that he channels. If anybody has not checked out Pragi with the Stargate Academy, I really encourage that. But I also have found through my path that I have very strong connections to other universes. For a reason I'm here, but the other universes is really my connections. And so I have those strong energy associations, and Pragi is definitely one of those. So I can see why that relation, because it's not just particular realms or not, but it is multi-universes that I actually relate to. So came back to my normal human life, felt like I was still having activations off and on, sharing those with a dear friend of mine, Roxanne, and her and I were just kind of, going along our ascension paths together and experiencing life, having same challenges as most. And then later in February, I attended another event with Marilyn Harper in Adironda. Great event, enjoyed working with like-minded people. Again, wasn't there most for the topic of conversation, it was there more for the energy. I understood that that's what was my draw, is the energy of being in the presence of different channeled beings. And during one of the channelings, the message to me, besides giving me an activation, Adironda told me to own my powers. I wasn't quite sure what that meant, but I know when I said those words back to myself on the way home, it just brought intense tears and great emotion. And I knew at that point, in my experience, when I received that type of emotion, that's how my guides were communicating with me. At that point, they would almost put me to my knees in emotion when there was strong confirmation of that's what I need to be saying, or I was going down the right path. It was very much an emotional state when I was having those communications with my guides. So I'm not sure what that meant by owning my powers, but I do know that was something I was going to be embracing just from the messaging from my guides, and really hadn't honed in too much on my guides, really what that meant. Through this whole path, I've always been one, I don't really care so much about labels, especially when it comes to esoteric or the consciousness side of things. I just know from my being, right or wrong, as you do with your discernment. Discernment is really a key factor. You'll know in your heart center, in your gut, as you might say, if it's right or what matters to you. I never worried so much about labels, which is completely opposite of my corporate world. I am all about the details in my corporate world. So, but I think that's what enabled me to just be open too, is I didn't care what they called it, what labeled us as humans put on it. I did know then that there's energy signatures of everything. It was more important to relate to the energy signatures. And at that point in time, I was receiving lots of different colors with those energy signatures, and I understood different messaging depending on the color and energy signature combination. And so, working with Roxanne on some body work and putting that in perspective, aligning my own health and emotional body, again, experiencing the same things you're experiencing, the Ascension flu, as they call it, all of those things. I become to know shortly after that, and actually it was Roxanne that helped me put a label to it, that the purple colors or the lights I was seeing, that I associated it with the violet flame, which is all grand and I think is in everything, that actually it was Maitreya, was my key guide. And he came to me with strong emotions one day when that label was brought to me by Roxanne. So I had no question that is who I was working with, that my main guide was Maitreya. And it's just really started to unfold from there. I'm just looking at some notes that I had written down to kind of put my things in perspective. And then I was just just called upon in July to start recording verbally what I was feeling through my third eye, you might say, or these messages that were coming in. I thought, well, let's try to put some words to this, because I was challenged when I would go into these meditative states of high vibration. My body would just vibrate like crazy, especially my right hand and arm. These messages would come through, but I would not always remember them because I was in an observer state, or I'd step aside, and so I would remember bits and pieces of this, and I would immediately try to reflect by writing it down. So I thought, well, let's put this to words. And so I started recording my own sessions with my guides in Maitreya in July. At that time, I asked, do I need to worry so much about sharing this information with anybody else? And they're saying, no, this is more for your growth. And a lot of things started happening after that, because one, I would listen to the recordings and more would come out of it than I ever expected. The energies would be so reflective. The words that were coming through me was very unusual, just to say the least. There was chanting that I discovered from a 33 collective. I was relating to these messages a lot more. I mean, they meant something to me, hearing them verbally, and realized very shortly after the energy that was being portrayed was incredible. And at that same time, I was being called to open some portals, which I did, no questions asked. I didn't quite understand what that meant. Some were easy, that I just put the intention and it would happen, and then later I'd find out what the portal was all about. Sometimes it was quite a lot of preparation for me, like several days worth of preparation where I felt the energies building, and Maitreya would walk me through that, through the meditations, to prepare my body to host these energies. That's another thing I discovered. One of the attributes that in my alignment with my higher self is I can host incredible amount of energies from all dimensions, all galaxies, which is one thing I had to stop trying to figure out and understand, because it did not make sense to me. Still to this day does not make sense. But that was part of it. It didn't have to make sense. I was being asked to do this. It felt right. I had the discernment and I had the knowing. This is exactly what I needed to be doing. Could I explain to somebody else? No, and I really didn't care if somebody else understood it, the reality of it. That's the other thing, is I don't have that care about. I know what I need to be doing, and the judgment, I don't worry so much about it. So, I was introduced to a collective, what we call the 33, through opening a portal, and realized that they were family of mine from different galaxies. And so you will hear my videos chanting that's coming from them. And actually that's coming back, as I was told just the other day, that we're going to do videos just on that chanting and the messaging that they would like to portray to the collective. So that, that was going on in July. And then, Roxanne and I decided to embark on a great adventure and go to Bimini, the Bahamas, in August. And I knew that I would be opening a portal there, and I knew great things would be happening, experiencing swimming with the wild dolphins, being in that energy. I just knew, both of us knew, that there were great things coming from that. And so we went in August to Bimini, and I have to say, another incredible, life-changing events. I learned how to channel stronger. Multiple energies came through me, as I call him daringly, Mr. T, which is the Bermuda Triangle. There was a huge event that went on that I was able to help orchestrate with the Bermuda Triangle portal that was open. That actually, I probably need to explain that a little bit more in another video. But let's just say the energies were going inward for protection of that energy vortex. And I was asked to open it, and so that it could actually go start reflecting out, bring the inner earth energies outward into the collective Gaia and higher universes. So a lot of big things happened there. And, just learned a lot about myself. And that weekend, as I was returning back to the States and coming back to reality, I realized that Maitreya and I had just... our two worlds meshed. I'd be having a conversation one minute it is me speaking, and the next minute it was Maitreya, and it was a very, let's say, very unique and very weird experience that was going on. And so then is when our worlds started to just mesh, started to come together. The integration was coming very strong. And then, I kept just working with this regularly with Roxanne, and just being open to whatever happens. And then I started to record videos, physically putting a face to some of these recordings, and realize it is what it is. He asked me to be transparent and in the raw and what was going on, and so I agreed. And so in September I started recording videos and putting a face to all of this and what this was like for me. And I have to say, my only ask of him was, I want to be having fun. I cannot have another job, have that already, but I want to have fun. I want to experience this and share with people, but in a fun state. As long as this comes naturally for me. I've never done a video for YouTube, never created a web space or a website, none of that. But it all just come very natural, and the right information came to me, so I knew how to do it. And I have to tell you, I'm enjoying myself. And that's what matters to me, is I need to be enjoying this. And that has been our agreement. As long as I'm enjoying this, I love to share, because it's quite extraordinary what is going on. Also, I realized in September I had to be very careful, the audiences that I brought Maitreya into, because his energy was so strong that it really could make things uncomfortable for people because of the energies being so intense. So I had to really be cautious at that time when I brought him forward, because I didn't know how to regulate his energy at that time. It just, when he came through, and bam, you knew it. And everybody in my presence knew it, which was what I understood was necessary. And that's one of the things I host, is being able to magnify what you already have internally. But you need to be able to regulate that a little bit so that there's intention on when that magnification occurs. So through September, out of kind of default, it just naturally started happening where I was able to start regulating his energy. And it was a combination of both of us working together. There were some trials and some challenges on that coming. Sometimes his energies were too strong and I would be, taken back, where I would have to, take some self-care and go to bed and sleep for hours on end. But we eventually worked it out. And I can honestly say now we are integrated, and we're able to regulate the energies that are presented through me. So that makes a big difference when I am working with people, how much the energy that comes through, because the intent is never to overburden the human body. The intent is to utilize his energies and the energies that I host with other collectives to magnify the abilities within that person, not to tell them how their world is going to happen or anything like that. It's to magnify the knowing within them, their own resonance, their own alignment, just magnifying so they feel that stronger and can help with discernment, know what is true for them. But I have to be able to regulate that. And so I can honestly say that finally came, and that was, in September. And then really the next stage just kind of happened for me kind of easily, but surprisingly, is I knew Maitreya and I were integrating. I would still go into like a meditative state when I brought him forward, where I would step aside and really just be an observer. I couldn't really engage too much in the messaging because it was all him, even though we were able to regulate the energy, so it wasn't so impactful on those that were listening to this. But I still was very much an observer. I'd have to listen to the videos afterwards to hear the messaging and understand what was coming through. Well, early October, things really changed. And actually, I have to say, it came really easy, because I still, at this day, go, wow, how did that come about? And it just did. And that's part of just getting out of your own way. So early part of October, the integration between Maitreya and I was just there. But I also was starting to notice that him and I, we had agreed that he would know when the appropriate time was, that he could come through anytime he desired in any of my communications with whomever. But he also knew when I would let him know that this would not be appropriate time. So I, as you say, you have boundaries, and he respected that. And so we negotiated what those boundaries looked like. But what I started beginning to understand is that because of our integration, that I actually could be very present while I was channeling him. And what does that mean? It means, yes, I would still get into a quiet state, but it wouldn't take me long before he was fully coming through. His energy was very strong, regulated, so that it wasn't overpowering for the audience. But I was in my current state, so I could do tangible things. And still, he was coming through, channeling and asking and participating in whatever the conversation was. And that was unique. I didn't even realize it had happened until it was already done. And he keeps showing me, even as we speak, different ways that I channel now and still do tactile things, driving, facilitating whatever I need to, walking, talking. I have to be in current present state. I have to watch where I walk. I have to pay attention to where I am doing. But it's almost like, if I was to explain it in some label, it's almost like split personality, where he is coming through as the channel, but I'm actually able to operate this human body with no obstacles. But I do have to really focus in on that, but it's just a unique experience. But the reason I'm sharing this is because it just happened. And I really honestly believe it just happened because I got out of my own way, as I say, and I just I have full faith and trust in my higher alignment. And I have asked whatever it is that needs to come forward in this divine timing, I am open to receive. And I meant that. And so what I wanted to just explain to you is, I know this seems like, since July to November, a short amount of time for all of this to start really transpiring. Even if you say a year ago, there's no timeline in this. It really can happen instantaneous. So just allow whatever that timeline is. It's more about the alignment of your path and the timelines being presented to you on what you embrace. If you choose, it will come. And it comes very easy. I didn't have to go through a regimen of anything. I still have to honor my self-care. I still have to set boundaries, as I have other energies that would like to come through, and I let them know, no, not now. And there are times that those energies are quite strong, that I have to slowly migrate to them before I can channel them. That's what I love about Maitreya. He's like my moderator. He will push them back per se and say no, and help us kind of engage in that. I call it a dance that we do. But it doesn't matter. Whomever you want to speak with or channel is available to you. In this state of higher vibration, these energies are not here to harm you. They're here to connect with you. And that's what the incredible part is they are there. They are connecting with you right now. You just may not fully understand the messaging. So ask that you want to receive with transparency to understand. And I, opened myself up a while back and said, I am open to receive from all high vibrational beings. I wanted that realm to be open. And that was important for me, is that I didn't put any labels on that, because who knows what that means? We only know what we know through our own experiences and through other people's interpretations. But that is exactly it. Realize that it is only through somebody else's interpretations is what we understand. Challenge yourself to be open, allow whatever it is. As Maitreya says, owning your powers. So anyways, I just kind of want to do a recap of that. Just share with you openly what this has been for me. And just know that, it is what it is for you. And that's all that matters. You don't have to explain to anybody else. And that's what's important right now, is that you just align with your higher self and what matters to you. Trust that everything you're feeling is true, because it is. You may not be able to explain it. As soon as you're able to stop analyzing it and embrace it, you will know it is right. So, we have some events coming up that Maitreya encouraged us to host, something new for us. So Roxanne and I are putting together an event last part of November, and also another one in January. So if you'd like to know more, go ahead and check out our website, SoulCentricGarden.life. You'll see the link within the comments here. But part of those events are exactly that. We are bringing together the body work of the energy balancing, which is very important, and then the magnification of the energy of Maitreya and your collective. Everybody has a collective with them. So through that experience, it's a one-day event. You will learn tools, but more importantly, you will receive the magnification that will allow you to embrace your next steps. As I say in the advertisement, is taking to the next level what it is that's meant for you. Your soul purpose. It will magnify you, but in the right alignment, depending on the person attending. That magnification will lead you to the next state. There will be activations that you may experience immediately or later. Just know whatever it is, if you're called to attend, it is for your right alignment. If you choose to work with me personally, I have those sessions available also. Those are pretty incredible, because not only do we work directly with you and the collectives, your collectives and mine connect, which embraces what Maitreya calls your fractals. It brings back those memories and stimulates those cellular activations, which is important for you alone. So we get to hone in on what that means for you. And actually we do those in 2 different sessions, because it can be overwhelming for the human body to have everything downloaded at once. So that's why I'm glad I've been able to figure out how to regulate his energy. But you work with me directly, which in my home I have a portal, which is pretty cool. and you'll be able to embrace that energy along with everything that's within you. And that's the cool thing, is everything within you is magnified. Nothing, I'm not telling you anything. I'm just helping you embrace you. So, lots said here. I think it was important just to have this, candid conversation. Feel free to reach out. Email is in the comments. Anxious for these next steps. Actually just had some quite enlightening vibrations and activations early this morning, so we'll see what that leads. But just know, trust yourself. And just, there's so much to embrace. Until next time, I appreciate you tuning in, and more to come. Have a great day.